Hello and welcome along to Creating Motion Graphics with Adobe After Effects with your host Robert Smith. In this video we're going to do After Effects 101, which is using keyframes to transform properties. Now that sounds a bit technical, doesn't it? So let's actually do it. To do that I'm going to import an Illustrator file. I'm going to go to File, Import like this file, or I can go Command I to do the same thing, or I can just double click over here in my project window, which is what I usually do anyway. So I'm going to click on Crest, that's the file I want. Now I want to import it as footage. Now we've spoken about this in a previous video. Footage will flatten this file and bring it in as one layer, which is what we're going to do for this. We're going to animate it in separate layers in an upcoming video, but right now we'll just keep it as one layer. So I'm going to import it as footage. I'm going to click open like that, and up comes this dialog box, and it's sort of asking, are you sure you want to import it as footage? Yes, that's what I want. So click OK. As you can see now I've got an Illustrator file that's come in, and it's just one layer. Okay, so let's make a composition. If we're going to animate something, we need to make a composition to put it in. So I'm going to go to Composition, New Composition, or Apple N, like this. And as discussed in previous videos, we'll just call this animated logo, like that. And After Effects remembers our last settings, which in this case was, we're going to make it a HD 720. That's it there. This one here, 1280 by 720. That's again the size of our stage or our video, if you like, finished video. We're going to be using 25 frames per second, and we're going to have a duration of 10 seconds. Let's remind ourselves how to do that. If I just click and drag like that, if I type in 1000, rather than have to put all those semicolons in, 1000 equals 10 seconds. In other words, 100 equals 1 second, and I want a black background, so that's fine. So I'm going to click OK for that. And here's my stage, and here's my composition in my project window. And how I, when I've got many compositions down here, I just click on this, that'll bring up the composition I want. Okay, so let's get to animating. Now, to bring things into this area so we can actually see them, there's two ways of doing it. We can click, just grab it and simply drag it like this. And we can put it wherever we want on the stage, like that. Now, that's a little bit clunky, because we really don't know. A lot of the time we like to center things on the stage, and a better way of doing it is, let's just delete that and do it again. I'm going to grab it and simply click and drag it down here into this timeline area like that, and just let go, and that will put it right in the center of our videos area like that, which is a much more technical way of doing it. Okay, now whenever I drag any asset out of the project window into the timeline, which is the timeline down here. Now if you're new to After Effects, this can be quite scary, all these little icons, what they do. They do amazing things, and there's a lot of them, but we're not going to go there yet. We will, as time goes by, start to incorporate all these things into our project. But right now we're going to keep it really, really simple. What I want to do is I want to get this logo, I want to take it off the stage or off the video area, and I want to bring it on, and I want to, while it's fading in, I want it to be rotating and maybe scale it up a little bit. Okay, so how we do that, I've dragged my Illustrator file down here into the timeline area. Now this little twirly thing, I'm sure there's a more technical name for it, but I call it the twirly thing. If I click on that and I click on this transform one like that, you'll see it opens up. I get these 5 properties. Now properties are every layer that you drag into the timeline will inherit these 5 properties. That's position, where it is on the actual screen, how big it is, whether it rotates, whether it's spinning around, and whether we can see through it or not. And it also has a thing called an anchor point, which can be a little bit, that's this little thing here. That's where it actually rotates around. More of that later. Okay, so let's get to animating. Now, one of the things you do a lot in After Effects is that you animate backwards. And that might sound a bit funny if you've never done it before. So what I'm going to do is, here is my timeline, and each one of these represents 1 second. What I want to happen after, let's say 2 seconds. After 2 seconds, I want this logo to be sitting there and looking like that after 2 seconds. But before that, I want it to slowly come onto the stage or into the video area, rotating and fading in. Now to do that, I'm going to actually grab my current time indicator, or as I like to technically call it, the yellow thing here. I'm going to drag it to 2 seconds in time. Okay, again, this timeline here is in seconds. So now I'm 2 seconds into my video. Nothing's happened, of course, because we haven't actually done anything yet. Okay, now a more technical way of doing that, and something you should know, to get this current time indicator where you want it to be, is these numbers over here on the left. If I double click on those and just type in 200, remember 100 equals 1 second, it'll take me to exactly 2 seconds along my timeline, which is great. Okay, now in After Effects 101, there's something called keyframes. Now keyframes, there are a million definitions of what a keyframe is, but it simply means a snapshot of what this logo looks like at this point in time. Okay, and how we create a keyframe to tell After Effects that that's what we want it to look like at this point in time is by simply clicking on these little stopwatches here. Now I know I'm going to be animating all these properties, so I'm just going to click on that one, this one, and that one. Now you'll notice they turn dark and you get this little diamond shape over here, but more importantly, in your timeline you get these. These are your keyframes. This is After Effects 101. This is where all the magic happens. In these little diamonds, After Effects keeps the information in terms of, let's say, position, where it is on the stage. So let's start with that. Okay, now I want it to end up at 2 seconds there, so I'm going to grab my current time indicator and drag it right back to the start, or I could press my home key if you've got one. If you're on a laptop you might have trouble finding that. Now again, nothing's happened. Now what I want to do, I want to take a snapshot in time by grabbing this logo, and I'm going to grab it and simply drag it right off the stage like that. Keep dragging like that with the shift key down so it drags in a straight line. Now you'll notice down here we've got an automatic keyframe. After Effects has given us a keyframe. So now at this point in time, now this is, pay attention, this is the crux of the matter. At this point of time, this keyframe is saying that logo in terms of position is over here. And when we get to here, watch the magic as I drag my current time indicator, After Effects fills in all those frames for us until it gets to 2 seconds, and that's where it was originally. Okay, so as you can see, as I drag my, I'm just clicking and dragging my current time indicator like that. Now, to actually watch it in real time, I can use this thing up here called the RAM preview. Now, right now, we're not taxing our computer very much by animating this simple logo. But once we start to get a lot more complicated with a lot more layers, you'll find a RAM preview comes in very handy. Or we can press the space bar for this situation like that, and it will play Animate in. Now of course nothing's going to happen from this point in because we haven't changed anything. We haven't said, okay, After Effects, we haven't changed any position. So what I might do, I might drag my current indicator to say 8 seconds like that, or do it the professional way by double clicking over here and typing in 800. 100 equals 1 second, and it takes it exactly to 800 or 8 seconds along my timeline. Now I want to create another snapshot in time. I want to tell After Effects that between this keyframe and this one, nothing's going to happen. Absolutely nothing. But I need to tell it that. So to do that, I'm going to go over here in my position lane, if you like, and you'll see a little, I can click here to add a keyframe to my timeline. So let's have a look what we've got in terms of keyframe. The first keyframe in position tells the logo to be just where it is off the stage, and over 2 seconds After Effects will tween, I think that's the term they use, that's a Flash term, I'm an old Flash developer, and then from there nothing, because between these two keyframes there's no animation. But I want to go to the end of my timeline like that, drag my current time indicator right to the end, then I'm going to grab my logo and hold the shift key down and just drag it off the stage like this. So it gets right off. Okay, now I've used keyframe. Let's have a look at that in action. Now I'm going to press the space bar to watch my animation. Gets to 2 seconds, does absolutely nothing, just sits there so we can look at it. and then it goes on its merry way, and that's all being controlled by these keyframes. Okay, while we're here, I've just used position as one of the properties I'm going to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go now to navigate between these keyframes. The shortcut you must know. The first one is K, the letter K. If I press the letter K, it'll take me to exactly where these keyframes are. Press K again, it'll take me, or if I press the letter J, it'll take me back through my keyframes. So that's something you must learn, that shortcut, so you can be exactly where those keyframes are. If you're just, for example, one frame out like that, you'll get some really nasty surprises. So I'm going to just press K to make sure I'm on that keyframe like that, or I'll press J to go back to this keyframe here. And what I want to do is, at this point, I want to put a scale property. I want to animate my scale property. Right now, my scale in this keyframe here tells me it's 100%. But if I go down there and I drag these numbers, now this is a more technical way of just changing properties by dragging these numbers. Here I've got an X and a Y scale. I can disconnect that and I can do them individually, or I can keep that clicked, and then it will scale proportionately. So I'm just scale that down to, say, 50% like that. Let's have a look at that. You'll notice straight away After Effects gives me a keyframe because something's changed. It knows that in the scale lane at this point it was 100%, but I've just changed it. So let's have a look at that. So it seems to be getting bigger as it comes onto the stage till it gets to 100%. Fantastic. Now I'm going to press the letter K, and I want it to stay at that scale. So again, I'm going to click over here just to give a keyframe. Now this, if you're having trouble understanding that, that's the part that does everybody's head in, that you have two keyframes and nothing happens, and yet you have two keyframes here and a lot happens. Okay, so I've put this here like that. Now I want it to scale on its way out, so on its way out like that, I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to now just change that to 50% again. And as you can see, I'll get an automatic keyframe. Now that was, I had trouble getting it to 50, so I'll just double click on one of them and type in 50. Makes life easy. And I get a keyframe here. So let's have a look what I've got. So I can press the space bar, watch my animation. Does nothing for that 8 seconds like that. And then we'll scale as it goes off the stage. Now let's see what we've learned so far. We've learned that keyframes are snapshots in time, and that's how we animate in After Effects. And we spend most of our time creating keyframes and creating static keyframes, but that's basically it and how we will do our first bit of animation. Okay, in the next video we'll add some more properties. Okay, thanks for watching.